Good evening. Good evening. This is Kevin, and it's nice to speak with you again. Thank you for tuning in, for downloading so many of my podcasts. It's always good to know when I go to my podcast portal and check once in a while. It's always good to see the numbers rising. So I think I'm doing doing something that adds a bit of value to people's lives. The learning of tourism is always very interesting. It was about 22 years ago where I was a tourism student, and right now I'm teaching and doing some consulting work, and I'm still learning about tourism. The learning doesn't stop. I sometimes tell my students that I see myself still as a tourism student, Today's topic is about Ecotourism Trail. I spoke about this a few days ago, and today specifically I want to talk about the various important things that you must do when you're considering doing an ecotourism trail. A trail usually can be defined as a designated route a traveler or visitor takes, and which has a start and an end point. So that's the common understanding of this word trail. An ecotourism trail can be described as a tourism trail, or as a trail where the main focus is on ecotourism products, where the main focus is about seeing, learning and appreciating nature, flora and fauna. I'm in the midst now of doing a project for a group of clients who is looking at this group of islands, 3 islands altogether. A group of islands called Talaut Islands, interestingly belonging to Indonesia but closer to the Philippines. And one main part of the project, as you might heard from the previous podcast, one main part of the project is about helping them establish an ecotourism trail. There are questions to ask and things to outline when you do an ecotourism trail. One of the first things that you have to do is to decide who is the manager of the trail. The trail manager is important. The job of the trail manager is basically to manage this trail. And we'll talk about what managing the trail means shortly afterwards. One of the next things that you will have to do is to identify how long is the trail, where it starts and where it ends, which places it will pass by, how long this trail will take. It's very normal for ecotourism trail to take at least 2-3 hours. Very normal. And the reason for this, and some might take half a day, and the reason for this, one of the differences between an ecotourism trail and some other trails in tourism, why it often is longer, is the interaction that the visitor have not just with nature but with culture. There's always this interaction with local people in an ecotourism experience. So when you design an ecotourism trail, it's okay if the trail ends up to be half a day. It's also okay if the trail can be as long as one whole day. Identifying the ecotourism products in the trail is important. Would there be orangutans? Would there be elephants? Would there be birds, migratory birds or certain bird species? What will the visitors see? Which are the different stations or stops in the ecotourism trail? And would you have things like local communities as part of the trail that adds to the cultural experience for the traveler? Many things to consider. Today I just touch on a few main things. So these are the things which I pen down in my advice for my client. The key points of the trail, the manager of the trail or someone must document the key points down. Because when it comes to management of the trail, one of the important tasks being the manager of the trail is to revisit and refresh the elements or the contents of the trail. You have to come back and revisit, because the same thing might not look the same anymore in 1-2 years' time. The population of the birds or the wildlife in an area may change from time to time, and so that adds to the complexities of managing an ecotourism trail. So we spoke about the trail itinerary, what is there in different points of the trail for the visitors to see. What are the cultural components that visitors can enjoy? And we so far haven't talked about the ecotourism guide, a very important person in the whole ecotourism trail experience. Who the guide is, how much training he or she should receive, what is the standards set, is the guide someone from the community that is within the trail, and these are important things to consider. You may need to establish a short code of ethics or code of conduct for the visitors, because ecotourism experiences can be very sensitive. Visitors will be exposed to all sorts of potential activities or things that they can do, and not all will be positive or creating positive impacts to the environment and to the local people. And so this is more or less my fairly short podcast on Ecotourism Trail. I hope you have learned a few things. Take up our online courses. One of the things which I sometimes do in my podcast is to introduce our online courses. We haven't been selling too many of them. One of the reasons we know very well when we started designing online courses, niche courses, so they may not have so many customers on a weekly basis. Sign up on our online courses. You will find us putting the link to our online courses in the description box associated with this podcast. Till the next time, most likely next week, we will speak again, and have a good evening and rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.